My husband secretly changed my daycare schedule for his family, then his helps. Cost me the promotion I'd worked. 3 years for the guest bed was already made when I got home. Gary had used the heavy cream sheets he liked, the ones that took forever to dry during the July monsoon season. The corners were tucked tight, and there was a glass of water on the nightstand. I stood in the doorway for a few seconds, trying to remember whether I had forgotten a visit. I had not invited anyone. Gary had not mentioned anyone coming. The room smelled faintly of lemon furniture polish. He only used that polish when he was anxious or trying to make the house look ready for somebody. The air conditioner rattled from the hallway vent, fighting the 100-degree Phoenix heat. We rented a duplex with old window seals, and even with the blinds closed, the afternoon sun warmed the walls. I went to the kitchen, set my bag on the table, and opened the daycare scheduling portal on my phone. A new email from Mrs. Gable sat at the top of my inbox. She was a corporate lawyer looking for a spot for her 3-year-old. She wanted the extended hours program and had already told me she was willing to pay the premium rate. Thanks so much for moving the tour to Thursday at 2:00 p.m. That works much better for my schedule. See you then. I frowned. Her tour was supposed to be Tuesday morning. I had chosen that time because Sarah, my lead teacher, would be fully staffed and the structured play block would be running. It was the best hour to show a prospective parent how the center actually worked. I opened the event log. The Tuesday appointment had been deleted and rescheduled for Thursday at 2. The system showed the change had been made through admin not Nana. That was my account. I had not logged in since Friday afternoon. Gary came into the kitchen wearing the button-down shirt he usually wore to the community college. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows. "You're home early," he said. "Did you use the tablet in the den today?" He went to the coffee maker. "Maybe. Why?" Someone logged into my work portal and moved a parent tour. Probably a glitch. It wasn't a glitch. The log shows a manual change around noon. Gary poured coffee without looking at me. "Maybe you did it and forgot. You've barely slept since the licensing inspection." I didn't forget. He gave me the neutral, patient look he used during faculty meetings when somebody said something he considered unhelpful. I looked down the hallway. "Who's staying in the guest room?" "Nobody. The bed is made, and there's water beside it." He paused. "My cousin Leo said he might pass through Phoenix Tuesday." I didn't know for sure, so I didn't want to clutter your calendar with it. My calendar was changed anyway. I didn't say I changed it. "No. You said I probably forgot." Before he could answer, my phone buzzed. Sarah had texted. "Mrs. Gable just called the main line. She's confused about Thursday because she said she had already cleared Tuesday. Is everything okay?" I started typing a reply, but the phone screen went dark. I had forgotten to charge it in the car. The charger that usually stayed near the coffee maker was on the other side of the kitchen, beside Gary's laptop. "I'll call her back in a minute," I said. "Don't make yourself crazy over one tour," Gary replied. "You'll see her Thursday. It isn't only a tour. If I look disorganized, parents assume the center is disorganized. You're overthinking it." He turned to his laptop. I stood there with the dead phone in my hand. I ran a daycare center. My days were built from overlapping schedules, staff breaks, classroom ratios, tours, inspections, parent meetings, meal deliveries, and the dozen emergencies that happened when small children were involved. Gary had always treated my work as flexible because I was the director. In his mind, being in charge meant I could move anything I wanted. In reality, being in charge meant everybody else expected me to be exactly where I said I would be. I walked back to the guest room and picked up the glass of water. It was still cold. Someone was expected. Gary was simply giving me the information one piece at a time. Tuesday morning, the heat was already rising off the daycare parking lot when I arrived. I spent the first hour apologizing to Mrs. Gable. I told her the scheduling software had caused a clerical mix-up and that I was personally correcting it. I did not tell her I suspected my husband had entered the portal from our den. She agreed to stop by later that morning for a short visit, because she happened to be nearby. Before she arrived, I went looking for her child's enrollment folder. It was not in the pending tray. I checked the filing cabinet, the front desk, and the shelf beside the copier. 10 minutes later, I found it under a stack of outgoing mail. I did not remember putting it there. For one uncomfortable second, I wondered whether Gary was right, and I really was becoming scattered. Kevin Velasquez stopped by around 11. Kevin was my business partner and handled the center's finances. His full-time job was as a loan processor at the credit union, and he delivered most information in the same flat tone he used for interest rates. "Morning, Anne," he said from my office doorway. "I saw Gary at the gym yesterday. He said you were taking Tuesday afternoon off." I stopped stapling. "I'm not taking the afternoon off." Kevin looked mildly confused. "He said you two were finally clearing out the storage unit, the old furniture and equipment from the first center. Gary told me his cousin Leo might be coming. He mentioned Leo too. I thought you were doing the storage unit before he arrived. Gary asked if I could drive him over because his car has been acting up. He did not ask me whether I was available." A plastic bin crashed in the hallway, followed by a toddler's scream. Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Sorry, Anne. The AC in the blue room is rattling again, and Mrs. Gable is here. She says she only needs 10 minutes. I could have told Sarah what had happened. I could have said Gary had accessed my account, moved the tour, and apparently told people I had cleared. An afternoon I had never agreed to clear. Instead, I smiled. My mistake, I mixed up 2 calendar entries. "Tell Mrs. Gable I'll meet her in the lobby." Sarah nodded and left. Kevin stayed where he was. "You sure you're all right with the storage unit?" "I'll deal with Gary." I said it quickly because I did not want my business partner looking at me as if I had lost control of my own schedule. The rest of the day was a mess of small problems. I gave Mrs. Gable the tour. I found somebody to look at the blue room AC. I separated 2 parents who were arguing about a shared birthday party. Every time I checked the clock, I thought about the made bed and Gary telling Kevin I had taken the afternoon off. When I reached home at 5, Gary was putting groceries away. "How was your day?" he asked. Kevin told me about the storage unit. Gary stopped with a bag of frozen peas in his hand. "Oh, right. I forgot to mention it. You told him I had cleared the afternoon. I thought we could go before Leo arrived. You also moved Mrs. Gable's tour." "I didn't delete it. I moved it to Thursday." "So you did use my account." He shut the freezer. "I saved you the trouble of rearranging things yourself. You changed an appointment with a prospective client. It's the same tour 2 days later." "No, it isn't. I spent my morning apologizing to her and telling my staff I had made a mistake." Gary's face took on that careful expression again. "You're making this much larger than it is. We have talked about clearing that storage unit for 2 years. Then ask me when I'm available. I knew you'd say you were busy." "I was busy. You are always busy, Anne. That is why nothing at home gets finished unless I take the initiative. Logging into my work account is not initiative. What would you call it?" "Interference." Gary laughed once. "Please, I moved one appointment. You used my password to decide when I would work. I was trying to make room for family. Then you make room in your own schedule." He started unloading the dishwasher. Plates clattered against each other as he stacked them. Gary often did that when he wanted a conversation to end. He became productive and acted as though the other person was interrupting. I wanted to keep arguing. I also wanted the kitchen to be quiet, so I stopped. That night, I changed the portal password. I changed it again the following morning, after I caught Gary watching me type the new one. On Thursday afternoon, Kevin came by with updated insurance premiums and a bag of almond croissants from the bakery near the college. He set the food on my desk and sat in the guest chair. "I talked to Brenda this morning," he said. Brenda was Gary's sister. She treated family dinners with the seriousness of military operations. "She's glad you're coming Friday." Gary told her he already coordinated everything with the center so you could leave early. I stared at him. "What dinner?" "Her birthday dinner. 6 o'clock. I have the final licensing walkthrough Friday afternoon." Kevin frowned. "He said you had shifted your afternoon blocks." "I didn't shift anything." He sounded certain. I felt heat rise in my face. Friday's walkthrough was the most important appointment of the quarter. We were trying to get approval for a new wing. If the expansion passed, the board had discussed promoting me to senior director with a salary increase. I had worked toward that for 3 years. Gary probably misunderstood something, I said. I'll fix it. Kevin watched me for a second. You sure? Yes. That was not true. I simply did not want him to see that Gary had been speaking for me to my own business partner. Friday morning, I spent 3 hours preparing the new wing. I checked the fire extinguishers, reviewed the staff files, and measured the spacing between the nap mats. At noon, a calendar invitation appeared on my phone. Brenda's birthday dinner, 6 p.m. Gary had also added a reminder. Leave center at 4:30. I deleted the reminder. I left the dinner invitation in place because I told myself I could manage both. Miss Holloway arrived at 2. She had been inspecting childcare centers for years and noticed things most people walked past. She checked expiration dates on first aid supplies, reviewed training records, and asked Sarah to demonstrate the second floor evacuation procedure. At 4:15, we were almost finished. Then Miss Holloway found a discrepancy on the evacuation map and wanted to walk the route again with Sarah and me. My phone started vibrating in my pocket. Gary. I ignored it. It buzzed again while we crossed the second floor hallway. Then again while Miss Holloway reviewed the final report. She looked at me. You seem distracted, miss. Is there an emergency? No. Just a family matter. I turned the phone face down on a counter. Everything here has my full attention. She finished the report and left a little after 4:30. I called Gary from my office. Where are you? He asked. I'm still at the center. Brenda hasn't heard from you about the rideshare. I told her you were probably finishing up, but she's getting anxious. I just finished the walkthrough. You can still make dinner. I'm exhausted. I need 20 minutes where nobody asks me to fix anything. It's one dinner, Anne. It's the 4th thing you have scheduled for me without asking. You are overreacting. Brenda already made the reservation. I do not care about the reservation right now. I spent the afternoon with the licensing agent. I am drenched in sweat, my head hurts, and I am not going to spend 4 hours pretending. Everything is fine because you told Brenda I was available. It's a family obligation. I ended the call. I sat in my car with the engine running and watched a stray cat cross the sun-bleached parking lot. I had spent the entire week covering for Gary. I lied to Mrs. Gable about the tour. I told Sarah the calendar error was mine. I told Kevin everything was under control. I had thought I was protecting my marriage from outside judgment. Really, I was protecting my own image. I wanted everybody at the center to see me as the director who always knew what was happening. Admitting that my husband was changing my appointments from home felt humiliating. I drove back to the duplex. Kevin's car was parked beside Gary's. The two of them were standing on the porch. What are you doing here? I asked Kevin. He held a manila envelope against his chest. Gary called me. He said you were having a moment and might have forgotten about dinner. He thought I could help talk it through. I looked at Gary. You called my business partner to persuade me to attend your sister's birthday dinner. I thought a neutral person might help. Help with what? You're stressed. Kevin can tell you the center is fine and that leaving for one evening won't destroy anything. The center is fine because I spent the day making sure it passed inspection. Gary sighed. You're proving my point. No, you are. I turned. Why did you believe I had given Gary permission to manage my schedule? Kevin looked uncomfortable. He told me you preferred it that way. He said it was easier if he handled the family logistics and you focused on the center. Did you ever ask me? No, he answered plainly, and I appreciated that more than an excuse. I should have, he added. Gary crossed his arms. I told him you were flexible. That is not a crime. You told Kevin I was taking Tuesday off. You told Brenda I had moved Friday's appointments. You changed a parent tour. None of that was true. I was trying to keep things moving. For you. For the family. You expected my paid work to move because my unpaid time was convenient. Gary looked away, then back at me. The storage unit needed to be handled. Brenda had planned the dinner. Leo was coming through. I was trying to keep you from having to manage every detail. You were deciding which details I was allowed to know. Kevin shifted toward the steps. I'm going to leave. I nodded. Before he walked away, he said, I'm sorry, Anne. I should have verified it with you. Gary waited until Kevin reached his car. That was unnecessary. No, calling him here was unnecessary. Are you coming to dinner? No, Brenda already reserved the table. Then Brenda can enjoy dinner without me. I went inside. In the den, I removed every device from the daycare portal except my phone and the office desktop. I changed the administrator password and created a separate financial reporting login for Kevin. I did not announce any of it. I simply removed the access. The licensing results came Monday, Miss Holloway approved the expansion. Her report also included a note about administrative instability. She mentioned that I had seemed distracted during the walkthrough and referred to recent scheduling irregularities involving prospective parent tours. 2 days later, the board called me into a meeting. They approved the new wing, but delayed my promotion to senior director. They also delayed the salary increase. One of the board members said they wanted to see a period of consistent operational stability before changing my title. They cited Ms. Holloway's observation and the tour scheduling errors as signs that I might be stretched too thin. I sat in the boardroom with my hands folded on the table. I could have explained everything. I could have told them Gary had entered the portal and changed the Gable tour. I could have said the phone calls during the walkthrough were from my husband pressuring me to leave for his sister's dinner. I did not. Part of me believed they would question why my husband had access in the first place. Part of me could not stand the thought of explaining my marriage to a room full of people who controlled my title and salary. I told them I understood. Then I went back to my office and closed the door. That evening, Gary had left a note on the kitchen counter. He had bought new towels for the guest room and wanted to know whether I would go to the mall Saturday to look at curtains. He did not ask about the board meeting. I left the note where it was. In the den, I reviewed the center's budget and checked every payroll entry. Then I sent Kevin a short email. I updated the admin access. You'll receive a temporary password for financial reporting. Please use that account only. He replied 5 minutes later. Understood. I'm sorry again. I closed the laptop and went to bed. For several days, the duplex felt hollow. Gary talked about curtains, a leaking guest bath faucet, and a holiday get-together Brenda wanted to host. He did not mention the promotion unless I brought it up, and I stopped bringing it up. I spent my evenings in the den with the tablet nearby, not because I needed it, but because I knew the passwords had been changed. On Thursday, the temperature reached 115. The duplex AC rattled continuously. I was sorting invoices at the kitchen table when the doorbell rang. A delivery driver stood outside with a large box containing an ergonomic office chair Gary had ordered for his study at the college. The box blocked most of the entryway. Can you help me with this? Gary called. I stayed at the table. You can slide it inside. It's too heavy. I need one end. I walked to the hallway but kept my hands at my sides. Gary pulled the box across the linoleum by himself. It scraped the wall and left a gray mark on the white paint. When he finally got it into the living room, his face was red. You've been quiet, he said. Are you still angry about Brenda's dinner? I'm working. You are always working. That is the problem. I looked at the scuff on the wall. I can finish my work when other people stop moving it around. Gary leaned against the box. I know I overstepped with the portal. I waited. I thought I was making things easier, he continued. I didn't realize you were so protective about your process. It is not my process. It is my job. I have a job too, I know. I have never logged into your college system and moved a faculty meeting. He looked down. No, you haven't. Your help cost me the senior director title and the raise. Gary's face tightened. The board made that choice. I didn't write the report. You caused the scheduling errors, and you kept calling during the walkthrough. I did not know Holloway would put that in writing. That does not make it better. He was quiet for several seconds. Then he said, I'm sorry I touched the portal. It was not the apology I wanted. He did not say he understood what it had cost me. He did not mention calling Kevin or telling Brenda I had agreed to things I had never heard about. But it was the first time he said plainly that he had crossed the line. I won't use the tablet, he said. I won't tell Brenda anything about your schedule. Can we stop acting like strangers? In the kitchen? I was 59 years old. I did not have the energy for another weekend-long argument in the driveway. "You stay out of the daycare business," I said. "You do not speak for me to Kevin, Brenda, my staff, or the board." "Fine. And if you need my time, you ask me." "Fine, then we have a deal." The tension did not disappear. We returned to our routines. We talked about the weather, the college's accreditation, and the leaking faucet. We looked like the reliable couple we had always looked like. But whenever Gary offered to help with something as small as dry cleaning, I felt myself stiffen before I could stop it. I bought a small black moleskine and kept it in my bag. I wrote every tour, licensing date, and board meeting in ink. I still used the digital calendar, but I wanted one copy that never sat on a shared device. On Sunday afternoon, Gary fell asleep in the living room, with the fan pointed at his face. I sat at the kitchen table and opened the family contact group on my phone. It contained our doctors, emergency numbers, work contacts, and the daycare center. Under administrative contact, Gary was still listed as the secondary emergency contact for the staff. We had added him years earlier, when the center was new, and it seemed sensible for him to be a backup if nobody could reach me. I tapped edit. I deleted his name and cell number. Then I added Sarah, my assistant director with her office extension. I saved the contact and put my phone face tone on the table. The AC rattled above me. Outside, the sun baked the driveway white. Gary kept sleeping in the next room, and the daycare would no longer call him when they needed an answer from me.